In this video, I'll show you how to visualize reports in a series of different environments, starting with WinForms and then moving on to WPF. I've already created a sample report here called Category Report. First, add a new project and select the WinForms application. Let's call it the Win Viewer. Okay, there are a number of assemblies required to run reports. And there are two ways to add these to the Windows viewer. First, you can add a report. Dropping this report will automatically add all of the assemblies. Or I'll just go to my Solution Explorer and use copy and paste to add the appropriate assemblies. Next, we have to make sure to add a reference to the actual report's assembly. Then I'll set this as the startup project. Next, from the toolbox, drop a document viewer directly onto the design surface. Select the Smart tag and choose Create Ribbon Toolbar. Now that's done, we'll convert the form to a ribbon form. Okay. Let's do a quick build to make sure everything runs all right, and finally, let's select the report that we'd like to see, which is the category report. And that's it. We've successfully integrated a report into a WinForms project. Let's run it. And here it is. Moving on to WPF. I've gone ahead and reset the project back to the original setting. So we'll see the one solution and we have the reports project set up. Let's go ahead and add a WPF project. We'll call it the WPF viewer. First, let's copy all the references again. If you don't have the copy references feature set up on Visual Studio, you can go ahead and add a report to the WPF viewer application and it will add the references for you. Next, let's add a reference to the reports project itself because it contains the report. All right, let's go to the toolbox and drop a ribbon document preview onto mainwindow.xaml. Remove the size attributes so that our viewer fits the entire window. We're going to use an MVVM approach to building this particular report. And so I'm going to set up a binding to the actual report preview model. If you're not familiar with MVVM, you'll get a little taste for it now. In essence, what we're saying is that the data context contains a property called model that will go ahead and tell this particular WPF report viewer which report to show. Let's go to the code behind and set up the data context. This data context is going to be bound to something called the main window view model. Obviously, this class does not exist, so we'll go ahead and create it with CodeRush. With any MVVM style approach, the view model will need to inherit from iNotifyPropertyChanged. We'll go ahead and implement it. Next, you'll recall that in the mainwindow.xaml, we told it to bind to a property called model, so let's set that property up. We're going to use CodeRush to set up the property correctly. Notice that CodeRush recognized that iNotifyPropertyChange was inherited from, and so it went ahead and created the property the way it should be. Now we need to set this item to something called iPreviewModel. This preview model is what, in essence, sets up the report viewing experience. Now let's set this model to something new. What we do is we instantiate the category report, and then we set the model equal to a new extra report preview model. This is a preview model that works for WPF. Later, when we look at Silverlight, we'll use a different preview model. And it takes a report. Now we say report.createDocument. And that's it. Let's go over what we've done. First, we dropped a ribbon document preview onto the mainwindow.xaml. Then we set the binding to the model property of the view model. Next, we went into the main window code behind and set the data context up to a main window view model. Finally, we created the main window view model, inherited from iNotifyPropertyChanged, created the model property from which the document preview binds to it, and then we set that model up to something new. Let's run it and see what happens. And there it is. Notice that we were able to use the MVVM pattern to set up a WPF report viewer. Thanks for watching, and thank you for choosing DevExpress.